champions, Indianapolis Colts.
This is the Indianapolis Colts Journey to the Super Bowl podcast, and I'm your host, Dakota Lee Tracy Bernard Burrows. Before we get started, I would like you to hit the subscribe button if you truly love the Indianapolis Colts. Now, if you don't hit the subscribe button, that means you absolutely hate the Indianapolis Colts, and you should just get yourself out of here right now. This past weekend, Lucas Oil Stadium was rocking for a home opener, and our Colts did not disappoint by coming out with the victory. This weekend, Jacoby Brissett etched his name in history. 16 consecutive completed passes. Only two other Colts quarterback has ever done that. Peyton Manning and the Baltimore Colts' Burt Jones. His quarterback rating also got him into the record books. I don't remember exactly what record it was, but the record has something to do with 2 out of the first 3 games of the year. His quarterback rating was 100 or more, and only 2 other Colts was able to do that, and that was Peyton Manning and Johnny Unitas. Peyton Manning done it twice, and Johnny U was only able to do it once. These are categories that even Andrew Luck couldn't get himself into, so it's not like these are super easy to achieve. People can continue hating Jacoby, but I will not. I will not stand for it. I am right behind him 110%. He ended the game with 310 yards and 2 touchdowns. He actually is tied for 5th place in touchdowns in the league. Going into the game, Darius Leonard was leading the team in tackles at 18. Since he was out, they decided to bring Anthony Walker over to Leonard's original spot and let Bobby Okereke start in Anthony Walker's original spot. And since this happened, Anthony Walker recorded 14 tackles and Bobby Okereke recorded 8. So now we have a new leader in tackles, and that is Anthony Walker at 23. Our defense definitely stepped up in that first half. In that second half, they were kind of slacking a little bit. I mean, that's where the Falcons got most of their points. And it looks like Malik Hooker got hurt, and he's not going to be able to come back for a couple weeks. So it's the next man up mentality again, and I think Khari Willis is going to be taking his spot. So far, Khari Willis has proved that there's a good reason why Fowler drafted him. And now he has a bigger chance, a bigger platform, and a lot more playing time is what he's going to get. You better take that opportunity and just run with it. And Clayton Geathers got his first career interception this past weekend, and that kind of surprises me because he's a very good player. He's one of my favorites. By now, I would have thought he had at least a couple, you know. We're starting to get hit bad by the injury bug, but I don't think that's going to stop us from winning. Our defense is definitely getting the majority of the hit, though. Malik Hooker left the game with a torn meniscus. Al-Quadin Muhammad left the game with an injury, and so did Tyquan Lewis. All year long, it's going to be the next man up mentality, and we got to take that to heart. Speaking of the next man up mentality, T.Y. Hilton didn't get to play the second half because of his quad injury, but to be fair, the Falcons had the ball most of the second half. But it looks like T.Y. Hilton may not be playing this week against Oakland. That means Paris Campbell, Zach Pascal, and Deion Kane, they better step up this week because it's their time. It's their time to step up. Speaking of Zach, he just scored his first touchdown of the year, and he caught his first pass of the year. Frank Reich said the touchdown pass that went to Zach Pascal was actually supposed to go to T.Y. Hilton, but since T.Y. Hilton missed a couple days of practice, Zach Pascal had a chance to practice in his spot, and he did that play perfectly at practice, and it looked like he did it perfectly in the game. I'm glad that everyone's getting these opportunities, not just at practice, but in games. Makes me feel really good about our team when Frank Reich says something like what he said about T.Y. Hilton and what he said about Jacoby in the Titans game, where that 4th and 1 conversion was supposed to be a pass, but Jacoby saw their defense switching up, so he switched the play for a quarterback sneak and ended up getting the first down. Our team literally is built for greatness. It's just a matter of time when it's all put together and everyone in the league knows. The state of the AFC South will tell you that the Jacksonville Jaguars pulled off the victory in the Trash Bowl of Thursday Night Football last week against the Tennessee Titans. So now both those teams are 1-2. And after this week, we are no longer number 1 in the AFC South. That is owned by the Houston Texans this week, but for a very, very, very short time because the Indianapolis Colts will be back on top of the division. The Texans beat the formerly known as San Diego Chargers, and we lost to them, and that is the reason why they are leading the division right now. This weekend, the Houston Texans will be facing off against the Carolina Panthers. Carolina Panthers with a backup quarterback who showed that he can win games even without Cam Newton. So hopefully he'll give the Texans a hard time. Because the truth is, Carolina has weapons. They just need to know how to use it, and they need to win. I'm not going to break down that game this week, but it'll be a tough matchup for Texans, and hopefully Carolina can pull it off. That's all I'm going to say about that. The Jaguars will be playing against the Broncos. Hopefully the Broncos can finally win a game and beat the Jacksonville Jaguars. And then we got the Tennessee Titans. The 1-2, 0-2 in the division, facing off against the Atlanta Falcons that we just beat. But it looked like the Atlanta Falcons established a running game against us. Hopefully they can keep that rolling into this week. That wraps up the AFC South for this week. Before I get into the Raiders game this Sunday, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the Atlanta Falcons game we had. This Sunday was like a beginning of a new era without Andrew Luck here at Indy. And you know what? I wasn't at the game, but I heard that it was louder than normal, and that's a good thing. That's what we got to continue doing each and every week. We got to make it tough for other teams to come to Indy and beat us. I remember at one point we used to be one of the loudest stadiums in the league, and then it just magically vanished. We need to bring that back. We need to bring that atmosphere back. Make it hard for people to win. Make it where they can't hear their own snaps. Make it where they'll hike the ball before they want to snap it. We went into overtime with a 17-point advantage. So yeah, we got outscored in the second half. But to be fair, they got the ball back first half. They scored a touchdown. They kicked it off to us. We had the ball for 3 plays, and we punted it off to them. They got the ball back, ran the clock all the way down, scored a touchdown in the fourth quarter, gave us the ball back. We went down the field, scored a touchdown, gave them the ball back. They scored another touchdown. And you know what they did? Kicked it off to us. And then since they held the ball and ran the clock down, they milked the clock. They screwed themselves. They milked the clock. And we won the game. Now we're 2-1. First time since 2013. How sweet is that? All I'm going to ask for next game is don't get outscored in the second half. Don't get outscored in the first half. But ultimately, don't get outscored at the end of the game. So this week, Oakland's going to come to Indy. It might be the last time we play the Raiders as the Oakland Raiders. As much as we want to make fun of this team, we got to give credit where credit is due. They have arguably one of the best running backs in the league this season in Josh Jacobs, and in my opinion, an elite quarterback in Derek Carr. That running game really is a key factor on that offense, so we really need to shut that down. Derek Carr has thrown 3 interceptions in 3 games, so I think if we can get after him and pressure him to make some bad decisions. We didn't get no sacks against the Falcons, so I'm hoping that we can get some sacks here against Oakland. We need to try to shut down Terrell Williams and Darren Walker. Those two are Derek Carr's favorite targets. And another guy we can keep an eye on is J.J. Nelson. If there's any team that we shouldn't take lightly, it shouldn't be this team. I feel like they tanked last season for some good draft picks, and I feel like they're kind of taking this season. So they put on a good show, but they're going to lose. It's a little tough to tell you how we're going to win offensively because the 3 games that the Raiders played, they played the Broncos, which they beat. They played the Chiefs, that is a 90% passing team. And then they played the Vikings, that was basically a 90% running team. So if we look at the Chiefs game, we're going to say that they have a horrible secondary. If we look at the Vikings game, we're going to say they have a horrible run defense. So let's look a little bit at the Broncos game. The Broncos nearly had 2 receivers with over 100 yards. Emmanuel Sanders had 86 yards, and Cortland Sutton had 120 yards. Now let's look at the Broncos running game against them. They had 2 running backs combined for 99 yards. So even with that conclusion, I just think the Oakland Raiders defense is completely trash. We can win through the air or we can win on the ground. It really doesn't matter. It depends how they want to show up to the game. Depends how our guys show up to the game. With T.Y. Hilton possibly being out, I think they're going to use their tight ends a little more often this week and maybe even use more running backs. If T.Y. Hilton doesn't play this week, I'm not going to be upset because he can rest. We got Kansas City after Oakland, and then after Kansas City, we got Houston. Our running game is still as good as it was in week 1. Marlon Mack is 3rd in the league in rushing yards, and T.Y. Hilton is tied for 1st in receiving touchdowns, and he's 10th in the league in receiving yards. With T.Y. possibly being out, that could possibly affect us. However, we got a lot of receivers around Jacoby. It might not affect us as bad as we think, and it definitely won't affect us as bad as everyone else thinks. I mean, it's time for Paris Campbell and Deion Kane to step up. And Zach Pascal, who had a really good game this past week. Now, he only had 2 catches this week. However, one of them was a touchdown, and no one was on him at all. He was able to get away from defenders and catch it for a touchdown. I liked him last year, and I'm going to continue to like him. I hope he does well. I also see us passing the ball more downfield this week. Jacoby has proved that he's the general of the team on the field. And I think he's going to continue to prove it week by week, and he's going to prove all the haters wrong. Reich is going to continue giving him plays, giving him more freedom to do whatever he wants. And this week, I think Frank is going to give him a lot of freedom because we're playing the Raiders. Again, I won't completely take them lightly, especially since this is only week 4 and they're 1-2, but they're certainly not the Chiefs, and they're certainly not the Texans. So I think Jacoby's going to have a lot more freedom this week than he did the last 3 weeks. That's going to wrap up for this week. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you guys enjoy this week's game. Go Colts. See you next time.